Whoop FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible thanks to the generosity of individuals and the following sponsors.
Welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. If you're out of town, what number do you call there?
You call 423-614-5553.
Well, good morning, folks. It is the 9th, I believe, of April. And we have Morgan Denny, our intern from Bradley Central High School here.
Oh, wait, that camera's frozen.
Yeah. All right, already?
Already,
then we
yeah.
have Debbie Moore and Brian Reed. You have a birthday notice for someone today.
Yes, I do. At my church, there is a little old lady named Edna Dartery. She's turning 90 today. Happy birthday, Miss Dartery.
90 years. Wow. You know, that seems like a long time for you, don't it?
Yep.
It's closer for me, but it seems like a long time for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just 17, so.
Well, that's good. Well, happy birthday to you, 90 years old. That's some of the people who know a lot of history in our community, and we encourage people to sit down with that 90-year-old lady and ask her about things that happened here in Bradley and Cleveland or wherever she grew up, and there's a lot of history to be there. And get out your recorders and record it, because someday when she's gone, which we hope is another 20 years at least, and we'll know all the stories about her and her family and where she grew up.
And it was a different time.
It was a different time, definitely.
Ron and I are working on this documentary for the Ducktown Basin, and a gentleman on there that is in his 90s said to me while I was recording him, I graduated from high school in 1939. And I almost gasped because I thought, graduated in 1939, you know. If he had said he was born in 1939, I wouldn't think anything about it. So I'm sitting there counting up how old he must be. And Ron will tell you he is quite entertaining and quite knowledgeable in the documentary, and really paints a good picture of the things that went on there.
And we got an announcement for tomorrow. And Brian, something's going on big tomorrow that you and I and all of us know about. You want to tell us what's going on tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow is our quarterly meeting of the Bradley County Historical Society. We'll be meeting at the history branch of the Cleveland Public Library at 2:30. And we have a special guest with Jeff Morlock who'll be coming. He'll be presenting on downtown Cleveland during the 1960s. He's been doing some research and has developed a map that sort of points to special locations that were in the 1960s. So he'll be coming.
We're really excited about that. And for those of you who grew up wandering around downtown Cleveland in the 1960s, we hope that you will both come to be informed and come and give information, because there's still some places that he's kind of a little questionable on, or he needs a second opinion on exactly which building some of the businesses were in.
Right.
We'll hope you'll come do that. Ron and I are going to put together a little slide presentation of some of the photographs that we have of downtown Cleveland, just for everybody
background.
To play as a background. Also, if you haven't been to the history branch at the Cleveland Public Library in a little while, you will recall that was the original library. Please come tomorrow, because they have done extensive remodeling. Well, I was trying to call it
upgrading.
They did. They restored it. Renovations and but it's a restoration actually to make it look probably the way it did originally. Plus the fact that they put in wonderful new lights in the library section. It makes it nice and bright. They have some new copying devices that will make it really easy to do research. And so I hope that you'll come out and appreciate all that has been done there.
Be a great day to come also because a lot of the historians in Bradley County there who can help you tell you where to start at and looking at
Yeah,
the
we'll be glad
genealogy
to,
or family history of some type of buildings or school history. You know, they've got all the annuals from back years and years and years, and it's unbelievable to go back and look at Old Bradley High School annuals there.
I would venture to say they have almost every yearbook ever put out by Bradley High School. And I'm sure the Cleveland ones were a little easier to come by since didn't go all the way back to 1916, which is, the 100th anniversary this year of the what we used to call the Old Bradley.
Right. So, and this is totally different. It's the same part of it's the Cleveland Public Library, but the building across the street, the old Craig Mile home, is the history branch, and so there's where history of all types is there. From you name it, go in and ask the people in there, and they can help you a lot too. But you're gonna have a lot of historians there tomorrow who are pretty expert researchers. It'd be a great
and
time
I'd be
to come.
glad to stay around a few minutes afterwards and just kind of show them around and explain what's going on. I noticed the other day they had removed the little index cards with the obituaries on it. Are those online there?
They're online, yeah.
At the library.
They received a grant, and they were able to transcribe all those obituary dates online, so they're searchable now.
What was Jason's last name that did that?
I
I don't recall offhand, but there was a young man named Jason that one of the first times I ever went there, he was reading through looking through the old newspapers that have been photographed and were on film. And he would write down every obituary notice that he found. Now, the old obituaries are not like the obituaries today. It would just say something like, Brother John Stevenson of the so-and-so community passed this week and was buried in the local cemetery. But if you don't have a date at all for a relative, that certainly helps you because you at least know a year and a month and possibly even the date that they died. But he wrote down all of those things, and over the course of several years, probably a whole decade, I would think, that someone had written those on index cards, and you could go in and look up your family members alphabetically to see if they had an obituary. And, of course, when it got into the 1950s or so, they started doing something more like what the obituaries we have now. You could find a lot of information there that if you were filling in a family tree that would help you. But anyway, over the course of the past few months, like Brian says, that's been put online, and you can go there to the library and look up stuff. Also, for the next week or so, the AmericanAncestors.org will be free of charge online. You can go to AmericanAncestors.org and sign up for a week for free. I have not done that, so I do not know exactly what it looks like, but you can always find information someplace. We got a request this week on Facebook that someone had purchased a mower that had been made locally, and we haven't been able to find any information on that company, but it was the Fred L. Sandridge Mower Company in Cleveland, Tennessee. It looked like it was a push mower that only had two wheels on it and a wooden handle, but it was a motor. It wasn't like the old kind that just flipped. But anyway, if anybody knows anything about the Fred Sandage Mower Company, call us and let us know about that.
And the Cleveland Speedway tonight.
7 p.m. They're having their spring fling tonight, opening up their 62nd year of racing. Adults $15, kids 6 to 12, $7, under 5's free. The hot laps start at 7 p.m. And it looks like they're going to be racing all night, Ron.
That's right.
Going to have a whole lot of racing going on. That kind of reminds me that we lost a racing legend this week, Charlie Mincy. He raced for all over the South, but he raced almost every Saturday at Cleveland Speedway for 30 years. He was number 16. He was in the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, and our condolences go out to Charlie's family. If you've ever watched It's a Dirt Track Life, the documentary we made, he's the very first fellow that admitted that he had run moonshine when he was 14 years old. Alabama, he says.
Mm-hmm. From Dawsonville to Atlanta.
Yep, that's what he says. And so I'm so glad that we recorded him. We probably have 45 minutes of him talking about his racing career and hauling that moonshine. Till he found the right woman, and then he decided he better come up with a safer career. So he raced and did some kind of auto work. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Yep, he was there in the early days when they were starting NASCAR. So that's quite a legend. If you're a NASCAR or a dirt track fan, this is one of those pure pioneers of that sport.
Super nice guy.
Today we're going to be talking about, well,
Whatever
talking
we wanna
about
talk
history and how we preserve it. I think might be a way. One of the ways that history has been preserved in, or almost preserved in an area, I should say, is there are historical signs that the state of Tennessee will put up. Usually someone in the local area has to submit all the paperwork. Someone has to usually pay for the sign. It gets put up, and then we hope those signs continue to stand for eternity. Unfortunately, they don't stand sometime for many years. We have several that are disappeared now, and we're going to talk about some of that. And there's a dedication this weekend, Brian, is there not?
Or this week.
This week, excuse me.
Yes, it'll be on Friday at 2 o'clock. We have 3 new signs that have already been placed. They were placed back in December, but we felt that the weather was not agreeable in December to,
It may not be agreeable in April.
Well, that's why we decided that one of the signs is so close to the Cleveland Public Library that we will have the ceremony there inside so that it could be a rain or shine event. But if it's a clear day, then we will cross the street. The street will be blocked off for us, and we'll cross the street and have a ribbon cutting ceremony for one of the signs. And the other 2 we will dedicate, remotely, we'll have an image of these other 2 markers, and we will sort of cut ribbons for them and dedicate them. Fortunately, with these 3 signs are part of the Civil War Trails program
Yes.
that originated out of Virginia. And with these signs, there is a required insurance that is paid each year so that if there's any vandals, if there's any change that needs to be made, something else is found out that's new that needs to be rewritten, they will replace those markers.
Well, that's great. Maybe the state ought to get into this insurance program, too.
They are. Yeah. This was actually, it was adopted about 6 years ago, a Civil War Trails program for Tennessee, where the state of Tennessee received a grant that would help partially fund 300 of them, where an individual can put a percentage down of the amount, and the state of Tennessee pays the remainder. But that grant program is now over. It ended last year, and we were able to sneak in, 3 applications and get those in before the timeline.
I know that we got one at the Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Charleston.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the day that our SRO officer jumped to his feet and started to run out the door. I happened to be standing in the office, and he turned to me and looked and said, "Is there something going on in Charleston today?" And I said, "Yes, they're dedicating a Civil War sign." And he said, "Would they be firing a cannon?" And I said, "Yes, they would probably be firing a cannon." And he said, "Well, I imagine that's what the explosions in your Charleston school are." And
They had a lockdown.
They had a lockdown because they had kind of forgot to tell everybody that they would be doing the cannon firing.
So those dedications are open to the public, right?
They are, yeah.
Please come at 2 o'clock
At 2 o'clock, yeah.
at the regular public library.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I was going to say that of those 3 markers we're dedicating, we already have 3 other Civil War Trails markers in the county, with one being at the Henniger House in Charleston.
Yes.
There's one in the Park of Charleston.
Yes.
And then finally there is the one at the museum at 5 Points.
Okay, I must be thinking about the one at the Henniger House when I said it was at the.
Yeah, that's right. It was at the Henniger House where they
Okay.
fired the cannon
Okay.
and shook the windows of everyone.
Kind of woke up Charleston.
Well,
Yeah.
the biggest marker missing in Bradley County, and no one knows where it is the Chief Jack Walker marker, which was, if you know where the Walmart is, it was somewhere right there on the road, or on the side of the road, of course.
We're
right there.
north side.
Where Norfolk Quay comes in,
Yes.
right along through there. And it was I guess, I didn't weigh it at that time, but it was about a 5-ton stone with a huge brass plate on there that recognized Chief Jack Walker's home place, which is right there where, well, 5 burgers and guys, fries and whatever the name of that is.
Yeah.
Right in that area there was the Jack Walker farm. Jack Walker, of course, his death or murder may have led to the final straw that moved the Cherokees out to Oklahoma. And that's a long story, but basically, upon his murder, the trial was thrown out of McMinn County because he was murdered in the Cherokee Nation and not in Tennessee, and so they couldn't try the guys in there. And the Knoxville Supreme Court ruled that the Cherokee Nation was no longer a sovereign nation, and basically Andrew Jackson sent in the troops and said, send them out west.
Yes.
And that was
He
the final straw.
deadline.
That's one of the links to it. But that 5-ton rock is missing.
I'd say it's under the road, Ron.
I'm really afraid that the highway department, as they made it wider there when all the Keith Street come in and Old Coy Street, and this was long before even Paul Huff, that someone just said, oh, there's a nice fill rock. And we don't know if the brass plate was taken off of it. We've heard different stories over the years that it was taken off. But it'd be nice if we could find that.
We had someone when we first started doing this show, and we had mentioned that she said that the plate had been taken off, had been taken to CC Card's body shop to be refurbished. And but they don't know what happened to that. They don't know what happened to it, and then the rock kind of disappeared, and it kind of got separated, and it may be under somebody's barn. I don't know.
But there is now one of the historical signs put out by the state of Tennessee is now on the side of the road. Unfortunately, we did build that shopping center where the dry cleaners, UPS, and Five Guys Burgers and Fries are in there. So now our monument is our sign is next to the dumpster of the building. So we really think, Brian, we'd like to try to get that moved. There are several banks and places there.
I keep waiting to see what's going to go in the lot where the church closed. And the old historians say that they think Jack Walker was actually buried back on what is now Stewart Road, where the CVS is. That would have been the back, about where the garden was. And they said that he was buried somewhere close to the garden there where Emily Meggs Walker lived. After the removal, she was a white lady. She was not required to leave her farm or her property, and so she remained there until she died. She's buried at Fort Hill Cemetery. And his Cherokee wife, however, who lived where Cleveland High School is now with her brother, Reverend Jesse Bushy Head, she was removed out west, and I don't know what happened to her and her children, but he definitely had two wills, one providing for his white family and one providing for his Cherokee family, which I thought was really interesting.
A different time.
A different time when you could have more than one wife.
Well, like I say, possibly move that sign away from the dumpster and some bushes there so it'd be a little bit better seen. And
I think it'd be safe there in the edge of Walgreens parking lot.
Walgreens parking lot. Yeah.
You always want to provide people a safe place to park when they want to look at the
I'm sure
markers.
Walgreens would probably be glad to agree to
I
something
will
of
tell
that nature.
you who was bent on getting that moved was Jan Chief that we lost last year. She definitely wanted that sign moved, and she talked to everybody and their brother about it. And I think that had she been fortunate enough to have good health a little bit longer, she'd gotten it moved. So maybe we all need to jump in and work on that.
Well, let me ask you a question here, both of you. This past week, last Monday, this past Monday, you, Deb and Brian, appeared for the Cleveland City School Board and was talking. The Candy Creek Mission sign is one of those that has disappeared. Long time ago. We don't know where the road construction could have got it also.
59 was when it was put in.
Yeah, and we have signs, and we have pictures of that, and Grover Rand was there, and Colonel Corn, and several people that
Mayor
we know.
Fulbright. Judge Fulbright.
Judge Fulbright were there for the dedication. Well, that sign's been gone for some time now, most likely when the road got widened back in the era, and when maybe the extension to Paul Huff come through. I don't know. We don't know when it was missing, but we just know it's gone now. We hope people are not getting these for scrap metal. They're not going to be making much money.
Yeah.
Well, and the signs are terribly expensive.
Yes. But you made a very unique request to the city of Cleveland and the city school board to do what, Brian?
We were hoping to be able to name the new school that will be built there off of the Highway 60, to name it after the school. I mean, named the new school after the Candies Creek Mission.
So Candy Creek Elementary.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Oh, we would really love to see that. And this was the very first school in what was still then the Cherokee Nation in 1825.
25.
I mean, you know, that was a good 13 years before everyone else was removed. And the missionaries came to what they said was a foreign country. It was a foreign mission right here in what is now Bradley County.
I think
We know that. We know that. I'm sorry, Morgan's going to sleep and it's tickling me.
No, I'm just like thinking.
Oh,
sleep
I'm
thinking.
sorry, he's thinking. Anyway, we would like to see that school named that. And ironically, a gentleman was there from the Greenway, and he talked about Cameron Fisher, I believe is his name.
Yes.
He has a proposal that from the new elementary school to Fletcher Park through the by Candies Creek, over through the back part of the properties there, and they've got a lot of the properties have agreed to let people, you know, be on their property. They want to extend the Greenway, and it'd be a 4-mile section that would go behind from this new elementary school, behind Cleveland Middle School, behind the church.
That's the old golf course.
Yes, and ironically, the Fletcher farm that we all call the Fletcher farm because the Fletcher family had the Tennessee nursery there, and it was been in the Fletcher family for 100 years until they gave the property to the city and they made Fletcher Park. Well, the Fletcher Park used to be the Candy property. There was a Cherokee family named Candy there. They owned an extensive amount of property, and therefore Candies Creek was named after that family.
Now, Candies was C-A-D-Y.
Right.
Right,
Candy, and then it possessive was Candies.
right.
So, but now, Brian, tell us why you can't name things Candies
Well,
with
you can't
apostrophe
name-
now.
Yeah.
Well, there was the government had created a sort of
Government,
a standard for naming geographic locations, and decided that they would not use the possessive in naming locations. There's only a few that they say that actually exist today, and I remember reading one was Martha's Vineyard. It is a possessive. The geographic locations, they say, are
And that
not.
must be a really old rule because I know on the earliest maps you see of Bradley County, Harris Creek is Hares Creek after Hare Conrad, and Candies is C-A-N-D-Y'-S, Candies Creek. But then about Civil War time, it seems like they've changed to the plurals or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Harris Creek is now what we know as Harris Creek. So that'd be the sort of like taking the S off there. So Candies Creek, and for Morgan, that's interesting is that the school was built in the Cherokee Nation. You had to have a passport to get into Bradley County. It wasn't Bradley County then, of course, but to get across the Hiawassee River, which was on the other side was Tennessee, on this side was the Cherokee Nation. And you had to get a passport to come into here. And they put this school in here to teach some of the leaders. Bixby, if you know where Bixby Creek is.
James Bigsby had officially requested it. His wife was a foreman. And so the Foreman family lived out in that
These
area.
are all Cherokees.
They were all Cherokee families. Some of them were mixed families. There would be a white man and the Cherokee wife or, you know, something along that lines. And the people coming in here were wanting to expose the Cherokees to the Christian religion. And also, in the meantime, educating the children. The Cherokees really knew that their children needed to be educated in English to survive,
Right.
to compete, and maybe possibly be able to stay. And so the families not only encouraged the startup. I know that at some point in time, they sent one little missionary down here. He was about 25 years old. He was newly married. He was really struggling. His name was Mr. Holland, or Reverend Holland. He was struggling because you can't build a cabin by yourself or a church building by yourself, and he was really struggling. And the Cherokees became interested and came in and helped him raise that building and get started. And by the time of the removal 13 years later, there was like 10 or 11 buildings on the property, including 2 church house buildings, both the Baptist and a Presbyterian church, and a schoolhouse, a large house that the Hollands lived in that they also housed the children because it was too, travel was really difficult in that time.
Well, I read that the first school that was there was in their home until the
Yes,
building
it
could be
was.
built.
It was. And so they really started out with the not even the basics there. And this property is located between Candies Creek Ridge Road, what we call it now, Candies Creek Ridge Road, and Highway 60. And it's on the same side of the creek that the new school is going to be on. It's on the northern side of the creek, and it's possibly those two big blank fields in front of the new school building. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them to name it after this school that was possibly on that exact same property.
For quick reference, it's Georgetown Road. If you know where Paul Huff comes across, and it dead ends into Georgetown at this time, they're going to extend it. But if you go west, it's behind the shopping center there, the grocery store, and then along Candies Creek Road, it goes back over there, and there's a little side road over there, and I think it's
Old Georgetown Road.
Old Georgetown Road, which goes by, you know where Johnny Brewer lives, right there in the corner of the creek. They think back in that area is where the buildings were, so, and then where
I
Cleveland,
actually think it's closer to the Walgreens.
where the,
But it doesn't matter. It's
where
not
the
but a
new-
half of a mile,
Yeah,
any way you look
where
at
the
it.
new school may have been part of the farmland where they grew the crops for the people, because Georgetown Road necessarily didn't go right through there at that time.
No, it did not. It did not.
You have to remember the roads are not in the same place
No.
today as they were
That's some of
in
the confusion.
1825.
And someone had told us that this Candies Creek Mission sign, big metal sign up on a big metal pole, was almost to the new concrete bridge on Highway 60, which is the
When they're going to tear down. and
yeah,
replace.
that they definitely need to make it wider. But anyway, we were very warmly received. They were very excited about the opportunity, and they have put it on the agenda for their next Cleveland School Board meeting. If you happen to see those folks out, or you see them at church or something, please mention to them that you think that it would be a great way to honor the past.
Is this not going to, did they not agree to go ahead and put it on the agenda for
That's what I
additional, oh, I didn't hear
Oh,
you.
yeah.
I don't pay no attention.
I believe that's what I just said. See how he doesn't listen to me?
It would be, if you are interested in this, you can go to the library at the History Branch when you come to the meeting tomorrow and hear Jeff Morlock talk. You can go in the History Branch and you can look up a lot of this data, and you'd be amazed to find out more about the Foreman family and the Bushy Head. Like the Bushy Heads lived right where Cleveland High School is. So the school board was really interested to know. Now, in the past, if I'm not mistaken, that new schools have been named
After somebody.
after superintendents of school, as a general rule. That's not 100%.
In the Cleveland city system.
Yeah, or the city, but so Templeton Hill, Stewart, Arnold, some of the
E.L. Ross.
E.L. Ross. Those are all former superintendents of school,
Blythe.
and they've named some buildings after. I think Rick Denning probably was the last one named, and they have run out of superintendents now. So they could. They thought it was time to break that tradition and name for the history
They're
there.
really interested
They're very
in honoring
interested.
the past. They
Well,
really
also,
are.
there's a story to tell, and by using that marker there, that could be an education point for future generations. And it's just a matter of ensuring its protection, making certain that if it ends up being vandalized, it will be replaced. That's
Well, Merle Durskin is on the city school board, and he has really encouraged this, and we appreciate his efforts. Some of
You're
us-
talking about putting when we get the sign replaced, is putting it in the front circle of the
front
the new
circle,
school.
we would really like to do that so that it would
Help explain the reason for the name too.
It'd be a curiosity point too, that the kids might be curious about it. The teachers might know to tell them.
Someone's calling Debbie.
okay.
Oops.
Okay. Brian, I know we've done this.
Debbie had mentioned too that since that greenway would be long in coming, but once it was placed, you'd be able to follow through with other markers, telling the story of John Candy and the Candy's farm. Fletcher is an extremely important person
Sure.
in the history of Tennessee. He was a Secretary of State for
That's
Tennessee.
right.
So even telling his story along that park route would be nice. But then, along with that, right now we do have some markers that have been placed at our current greenway. We have markers there that tell the early origins of Bradley County that
That's good.
were placed.
Hey, folks, if you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here, we're going to turn the phones on now. You can call us here at 614-5553. If you can also go to the internet, www.whoopfm.com, and you can see us, and you can join the chat room there also.
Yeah, and we also have a caller right now. Caller, you are live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Old Town Cleveland. This is Bullet.
How
Hey,
you
Bullet,
doing?
what's going on, buddy?
You know, that was perfect timing, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause I don't have my cell phone now. It tore up on me, so I'm having to use my other phone, and I don't have instant redial. I just like to say this, Deb, but you know, I've been trying to find pictures of the old Bradley Hospital. And right under my nose in the hospital, there is a picture of the old Bradley Hospital when you go up the old elevators.
Yeah.
I saw the room I was in 68 when I had my motorcycle wreck. It was room 104A.
Did it have an arrow pointing to it? Says this is where Bullet was. It seems like to me down around the cafeteria in the what's Tenova now. It has some old pictures too down there that I have seen.
Yeah.
I believe that establishment opened up about January 1st, 1953 or so.
Yeah, this is back
Or 53.
because the room I was in was 104A, and all anybody has to do is go in there and go to the old elevators, and you look to your right, and it shows the old Bradley Hospital. I'm gonna try to get a picture of that.
Yeah. All right.
I'd like to make an announcement if I can real
Go
fast.
ahead.
April 16th, which is this coming Saturday, Lee College is going to put on a benefit baseball game for the Fort Hill Veteran Cemetery,
Oh,
and all the proceeds go to the veteran section. And there's no charge. Everyone's invited, and you can get T-shirts at Bank of Cleveland or at the Cleveland Daily Banner, and they're pretty red T-shirts.
that's
Great.
good.
What's the date and time again?
On April the 16th, it's from 1 to 5.
Recently, Bullet, the folks from Lee University came up there and they did the ground penetrating radar.
Yeah.
We were trying to determine there had been quite an area fenced in
Yeah.
for the veterans, and now we know that there's not people buried there, correct?
Well,
Or a few places?
they're really not sure about it in the woods where we can extend the cemetery. I think it's going to come back and do that again. But I was there when they was doing that, and I really appreciate Lee College coming up there and bringing their classes with them. It gives them experience
And we certainly couldn't afford to have it done. But I think some of the question was the part that was already fenced in. Some people thought that there might have been some old burials there in
Yeah.
one corner, but I think we pretty much established that it's free and clear for the veterans to use.
Yeah, well, this is what I told them I'm going to do, Deb. If let's just say that we was to hit a grave that resembles a grave there, then we'll just cover it back up and go to the side.
Yeah, and it would be possible that they might can miss some. But anyway, I was glad to hear it, and I appreciate them doing all that work for us.
Okay, Ron, Deb, it was good talking to you.
Thank you.
All
All right, bye bye.
Brian, we've done similar shows here before, and there's the history here is so rich. The Cherokee history we could go on and on, but there's a lot of other buildings and sites. The Church of God, the Church of God of Prophecy, a huge, just the records and the history there. What's the number one thing you'd like to see marked right now? I mean, we've talked about this before, but what would be the thing?
Well, it's happening on Friday.
Well, okay.
That's step number one.
His bucket list is done. Okay.
That was one on my list when I started doing Bradley County history. I was always attracted to this Ainsworth Blunt story, and Blunt, of course, was one of the first principals of the Masonic Female Institute. His father was the mayor of Dalton.
Hold that thought. Let's get this call.
Okay.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Okay, hi, this is Byron Hendrickson.
Hey, Byron, what's going
Howdy.
on, buddy?
Hey, I'd like to announce to everyone that wife and I, Pat Hendricks, we work with the Meigs County Historical Society in the museum, and we're having an open house next Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m., and we would like everybody in the viewing area to come up. We're going to have a lot of Civil War items, and we're going to have a lot of things I found with metal detector, and museum's got great displays in there. So we'd like everyone who lives in the area to come up and see us there.
Where's the museum at?
It's located right. I'm trying to think the name of the road there.
Smith Drive?
I'm sorry, it's right there next to the courthouse.
It's kind of between the courthouse and the First Baptist Church. Just go to the courthouse and you'll...
It's on Smith Drive.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah. And Pat remind me there.
And that's next Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. 11 o'clock a.m. to 4 p.m. Ground antique cars, an old fire engine, and have a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah, and the courthouse is pretty too.
If you've not been over towards Meigs County, if you go up I-75 and take exit 39, I guess it is, and you go the new 39, the 4 lanes all the way into Meigs County now.
Yeah, it goes
Yeah.
from Athens over to Decatur, Highway 30, and if you're going by the going up the interstate there, that's where you have to get off. So it's a good museum. It's got a lot of items display in there.
All righty. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Byron.
That's next week, 11 to 4.
Next Saturday.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Call us next Saturday also.
But I was thinking just now that another great place to mark in that bucket list of mine would be the Rott House, and to tell the story of
Yes.
Julius Rott and how that played into the Civil War story. That would be this, definitely one of the oldest brick homes in Bradley County.
Well, there's a lot of, the old Cherokee Hotel. If we just went to the Cherokee Hotel, which was built in 1925 by the city because they didn't have a hotel, and then they sold it after they got it built. So that's pretty unique that a city built a hotel to help their business.
It was swank back in its day.
And the old side of over in the what we call the ward, the house, St. James House of the Happy Feet was a legendary place of music and dancing here. So I could sit here and just name. Go down 64 Highway. There's places you can name there. There's if you go look at the state book, and you can order a book from the state of Tennessee. I think it's $4.95, and it tells you where every historical marker in the state is located. And so if you're driving along some road and you see a sign, you can look up real quick and see what it is. But, there's murders, there's restaurants, there's schools, there's people, there's places, things. There are all kind of things. So it's not just – so there's a lot of things going on. I think our last state historical sign was probably down on Dalton Pike, because that's the one called No Man's Land.
Yeah.
It was sort of where the Civil War sort of took a break. There was nobody really in charge of that area down through there. Is this quick summary of that?
It's on the Hannah Farm.
Right.
Yeah.
And near Red Clay.
Now, there's something, too, that Tim McCoy and I have been trying to get off the ground, is that we'd like to see Flint Springs down on Highway 60 on Dalton Pike, named a historical district. They still have their 1921 school, and the springs are there, and the stories are incredible because there was another mission school right there in that location, and it was called Red Clay Mission, and it ran a little bit longer, I believe, than, I don't know. No, it started later. It was
1830s.
It was 1835 or something, and only ran to 38.
Yeah.
But their primary goal was to teach young women to go out west and be teachers, because they knew when they got out there in the wilderness that they would have to have well-educated teachers, and they were teaching They were teaching like astronomy and really advanced.
Well,
things.
Susan Bushyhead had taught there, and before teaching there, she had went to Maryville College for education.
Yes, she sure did. And the people that came out of Candy's Creek Mission are incredible. You had the Bushyheads that became some of the biggest evangelists. I think one of them went on to be the chief out west. And then you had the Bigsby children, which included Andrew Taylor's wife, who was living on the property that's now downtown Cleveland. And then you had, what's his name, Foreman.
Yeah, Foreman.
Reverend Foreman, who eventually, his biography is incredible.
Wow.
He was not speaking English when he started at Candies Creek Mission. He was an older teenager. He went through all the classes they offered in 2 years. Learned enough English along the way that he was an evangelist in both the Cherokee and English languages. He translated, in his later years, he translated the New Testament and part of the Old Testament from Greek to Cherokee.
So he probably was learning Greek where he went to Princeton Theological Seminary.
Yes, yeah, he just went to a little place called Princeton. But his resume is incredible. Before he left the old nation, he was helping publish the Cherokee Phoenix,
Right. Which was bilingual.
and so he was quite the person. But that was the caliber of people that little bitty school out in the wilderness turned out. I venture to say that the Candies Creek Mission was probably just on the outside edge of Fort Cass. I would think it wouldn't be too far from Fort Cass, but
No,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't.
inside the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside the area.
No, it was outside the area, but
Yeah,
it was
just over.
nearby. And there's a lot of people who wrote about going to school there, so we have quite a bit of knowledge
Yeah.
about it. Not as much as you have from Brainerd. There was
No.
also a Moochie mission here, but we really don't know where it was, do we?
We don't. There was another one I came across that I can't remember if it was a Bigsby family or not, but there was another that was placed in the Amohi district,
Mohi, yeah.
which Amohi was, present-day Cleveland. I mean, that was the area, if I'm not mistaken.
I would
the,
venture to say
the
that it
court of the Amohi district
was at Pillar Lake.
Yeah, at the Flower House Lake where it is today.
Yes, so I would imagine that the mission may have been close to that area. But anyway, we had the Soto's Route Mart down in McDonald.
The sign's gone.
2 or 3 years ago, we came through and the sign had been knocked over.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then I had called the fellas at Bendabout and said, oh, please, go get that sign before somebody else gets it, and we'll get it. And they were going to help me put it back up. Well, Matt went just almost immediately. I mean, it probably was the very next morning went, and the sign was gone. And so apparently someone had taken it, but it's never turned back up. Also, we had Oak Grove Mill Academy that's down on Central Avenue. That sign is still standing.
Thanks to Larry Bryan.
A couple years ago, they have concrete base, and after people weed eat around them for so many years and stuff, it kind of makes them very weak. And we had mentioned on the show that it was crooked,
And the bolts start rotting.
you're right. And Larry, I
Rusting.
probably had asked a half a dozen people to go see if they could fix it. And Larry heard us talk about it one morning, and he was working with the sign department then, and he took care of it. There's a fairly new marker out at Blythe Ferry Farm. Mrs. Neal had one put up, or some people from the Bennett Cooper family. He was a gentleman that was living there that ended up getting killed during the Civil War. And anyway, Mrs. Neal was really excited to get the sign put up, and it's still standing close to her barn. And I think you have to go onto her property to see it now. But anyway, there's a little cemetery there that they do keep up nicely.
You're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can go to, if you go to our website, you can sign up for our chat room. And usually, if you've got a question you don't want to call, you can chat with Deb there. And so you just have to sign up and create your own username and your password. That's very easy to do, no cost whatsoever, and you can chat with us here and participate in the conversations without calling. If you know, or if you have a historical area, hysterical or historical, some of the markers in the state are hysterical if you read the descriptions to them.
Well, I think in the
like
early years,
the world's tallest man in Tennessee, they've got a sign for him.
I think in the early years, they weren't so particular about, the signs and things. And sometimes you'll just have one that says, so-and-so lived here, but you don't know who that is. They just didn't do a good job. Now they're very particular about the verbiage that goes on the signs.
And it costs you money.
And it costs you money.
But if you had an old mill on your home and you know the story of the mill, we have no mills left in Bradley County standing. There's very few across the country. The nearest one to us, of course, is across the state line down at
Rattling Gord's place.
Yeah, Rattling Gord, but it's
Prater's Mill.
Prater's Mill now. There was several around here. One on right off Keith Street, here. Of course, down in the at every place there was a creek.
Which was
but
all over Bradley
There's
County.
some great ones still around the state of Tennessee, and if you had an old mill, then you know the story about it. If you know another story about was your father, grandfathers, or great-great-grandfathers a founding member of Bradley County? There's all kind of things that you can think of, and we can tell you the process. You'll need, let's say, $2,000 to get it done, and a lot of research, and then an approval process. It doesn't happen overnight,
Even if you're paying for it,
even if you're paying for it, it doesn't happen overnight.
We do have one of the original 1938 markers still standing, and it's down in the Flint Springs community, and it marks the John Ross farm, and it talks about he and the John Howard Payne being arrested and taken across the Georgia line, across the state line into Spring Place, Georgia. And 4 miles southwest from there is the Red Clay Council grounds. And then John Martin's treasurer of the nation lived a mile and a half north. There's just a lot of information on this one sign. And then it talks about the Red Clay Mission. The Red Clay Council ground marker is down on Dalton Pike. It's still there, almost to the Georgia line. The Candies Creek Cherokee Indian Mission sign was put up in 1958. Of course, it is gone. There was one about the Cherokee Indian Agency in Charleston that's missing. The Chief Jack Walker original one was replaced in the 1970s with just one of the regular metal markers. Rattlesnake Springs had a sign until probably the last, well, it's disappeared since we started doing this show.
Was it not up towards Sheffy Lane right there?
It was right there at Sheffield Lane,
Oh, yeah.
where there's a big electrical thing now. But we don't have one at the depot. We don't have one at College Hill. We're getting one at
College
Fort
Hill has one. Yeah, remember that?
Yes, they do.
I think they came on the show.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
but I don't think it's listed in the state book.
Not
No.
yet. Not
No.
yet. I think they kind of keep those books and then they just update
Yeah.
them every
Right.
few years. Let's get
Right.
this call.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron,
Yes.
before you go there, would you please go high as that mountain for the Rector family?
We will.
Sure will.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah,
honey.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I was thinking of the other another sign that was the McPherson farm that's right in front of Candies Creek Church.
Mm-hmm.
They have a marker
They
there.
got one recently.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Now, Candies Creek Baptist Church,
Right.
how long has it been in that location? Did it spin out of out of Candies Creek Mission?
From my understanding, the farm itself is pre-removal,
Mm-hmm.
but the church, I know they have a photograph of the church, the original church in the fellowship hall of the church, but I don't know the exact year when it was.
I think it was established in the 1800s, early 1800s.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the oldest.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
But we don't have one for the murder of Israel Smith, which was the sheriff that was murdered. I mean, they have this part of the road named after him, but there's no sign there explaining it. Let's get this call.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello. Let me say about the Candice Creek Church there. It was originally located back where the cemetery is at now.
Right, right.
What do you know what year it might have been established?
1835 when the church started.
Yeah, that's pre-removal.
I think his name was Alfred King, Reverend King was the first preacher.
Yeah, the King family lived out there on Eureka Road. Because there's a Civil War soldier buried out there on the west side of the road.
Yeah.
Under one of those big power towers. There's a little cemetery out there.
Yeah, but McPherson's, they came into the Indian Nation, Cherokee Nation, by a permit. I think they first erected a mill in order to move in. And also the Kings, about the same time.
I'm sitting here nodding my head like you can see me.
And I wanted to say something about Candies Creek, the spelling there.
Yeah, go ahead.
The latest period that I've seen that spelled in records there was in the Lewis and Neberg's Hiawassee Island
1940s.
Oh, is it?
They used that CANDY possessive.
I was really excited at the board meeting the other night because we were really given a good reception and they were really interested in the history, and I'm really hoping that they're going to name that new school Candies Creek.
You know
Elementary.
what? I don't think this can be done now, but I thought it'd be real neat if they planted trees, when they plant trees there, like maple, if they could have grafted one of the skin from one of the old trees over at Cleveland High School that was on the Bushyhead farm. But I believe all those old trees at Cleveland High are now gone.
Yeah, I think they are too. And do you think, Pat, that the old white house that was part of the county farm was actually the Bushyhead house?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. I haven't found a picture of it, but I read, quite a bit about that house, and I know that the Walker House was one of those big double log cabin houses, and it wasn't torn down until about 100 years ago.
Yeah. I wanted to say something about Mr. Sandage lawnmower.
Oh, go ahead.
I've worked for Ed Moore.
Yep.
In his lawnmower shop.
Mm-hmm.
It was that part had been Howard Griffith. When Howard was still alive, he'd come in occasionally when I was working for Ed. And I worked on a couple of those Sandage lawnmowers. And they told me that Mr. Sandage cast the body, the deck, on at his own shop there, with his own foundry. And all of them that I seen were all aluminum decks. They all had wire wheels, wire spoke wheels.
Mm-hmm. That's what somebody said about the one that was on the Facebook. They said it had just regular big rubber-looking tires on it, and they said they thought the original were wire.
More modern wheels there has been put on there. And they all had the wooden yoke and wooden
Handle.
hand grips.
Yep. That's what that picture had.
What kind of motor did it have on it?
I'm sorry.
What kind of motor did it have on it?
That's what I was going to say there. All of them that I worked on had Briggs & Stratton 3-horse or 3.5 horse. And that would date it at like 1955 to up to the 60s.
Where do you think? Do you know where his where he built them at? Well, I mean, where his home, or did he do?
Somewhere in East Cleveland, my impression. I was told that he manufactured all that himself.
All right.
That is so interesting, Pat. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I have come to the conclusion that you can ask most anything here on Old Town Cleveland, and somebody will have an answer. But I think that our Mineral Springs down in McDonald needs a sign, and Paul Huff Parkway. I mean, there's people that they're on Paul Huff every day, but they don't know why it's called Paul Huff.
Yeah, the best place to go to find out is the museum, but you can't see anything there at the road to know exactly why it's named.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, Morgan?
Yep. See? And Cleveland State, where Cleveland State's located, of course, Cleveland State's been there since '66 or something.
It
so
has its birthday, 50-year anniversary birthday next year.
But there was a huge...
And it was the first junior college in the state of Tennessee.
There was a huge African-American community there.
Right.
Huge.
That's where the Norman Chapel School was, but no one knows it.
Yeah.
Except if you went there.
Yeah, right. And so, but there's no signage there.
No.
During the water place, out where the new Whirlpool plant is, I've often decided if I could come up with the verbiage for that sign, I'm sure Whirlpool would love to have a historical marker in their parking lot that says that was the Deer in the Water Farm. And the Assembly, we all went to the Assembly, but no one knows where it used to be. Dooley's Ice Cream needs us. To us, it is historical. And, of course, the Black Fox community, in it again, like you have, if we have Candies Creek Elementary, named after the Cherokee activities in that area, well, Black Fox is named for the Cherokees, a Cherokee that lived in that community. And
Well, you know, a lot of the schools, the city schools, which were first built 1925 range, Templeton Hill School was one of them. Of course, the College Hill has its own now, but Templeton Hill is not marked. You know, but you can go on and on and on. What it takes is funds and
somebody with some passion
well,
that would take no
we
for
need
the
to find a
answer.
large foundation that would
Yeah.
put
Or-
in
or
about 10
grant.
of us.
Well, there's some legwork to it too.
Yeah.
It's just not paying for it. I'm
Yeah.
sure that I could get someone to pay for the DeSoto sign to be put back up, but I was kind of wanting to find some more information because it did
Well,
not
well,
have a lot of
The
information on it.
state will put it back up if we put it on their list, right?
Well,
it'll be a
yes.
while.
It might be 10 or 12 years before the state would pay for it and it would be put up. However, if we pay for it,
They'll put
it
it
might
up.
be a year to 18 months
Mm-hmm.
because you have to have 2 readings. They have to look at it twice. And they only meet.
Even for the replacements? All right.
They have to approve it, and if they don't approve it, or if they have some problem with the verbiage, you have to go back and fix it. And so it could take a year to a year and a half. We have Red Hill United Methodist Church. That church has been there. It started out as a, just as a meeting place. It wasn't actually a church building, but there's been church going on there since prior to the removal. And Flint Springs is the same way. Bob Irwin's house up on Walker Valley Road, which was named after Jack Walker.
Pleasant Grove Methodist Church is the
18
oldest Methodist church.
1826 on Bob Irwin's house.
Yeah.
That building, the Pleasant Grove United Methodist Church, that building's probably from the 1880s, but it has been having church since pre-removal, I believe. In Chattahoochee Valley, we had an orphanage that was there at Lester Goins' house. Israel Smith's house is still standing in the community. The Mee Mansion, which is an incredible story, and it's
A beautiful house, too.
beautiful house. There's no place there's no sign that tells you about Taylor's Place, although I think we'll probably get
That's
one
gonna be
when the
rectified, I
little
think, very
park
soon.
is finished.
Yeah.
There's nothing to explain Phillar Lake. Tucker Springs. Our railroad depot that's over 100 years old. And now the railroad depot, of course, has been there since 1850s, but in that
Yeah.
present location, that building was built in the
Well, we've had a total
1912.
of 3 depots.
What about the coffin factory, which provided the wooden coffins for the war effort, was one of the leaders in the nation, were they not?
Matter of fact, we're going to try to I've got a little blip of video, folks. It's from an old 8mm movie that's showing you the gas station that's located at, what do you call that, Ron? Forked Lightning?
Forked
Lightning.
Forked Lightning.
I always call it Forked Lightning.
It's
But
Forked Lightning.
Anyway, as it pans around, you see those huge the huge coffin factory. We're going to show that tomorrow at the Historical Society. So be sure that you come in. Hardwick Woolen Mills would be another good sign. First Presbyterian Church. It's on the historical registry, but there's no sign there to tell you the great things that happened there.
There's, like I say, there's several signs that are gone here in Bradley County, and it's sad to see they're gone. I think there ought to be a state law passed saying that anyone who removes or damages one of those
That's the answer to me.
have one of them dropped on their foot. Might be a good punishment because they are very.
Well, we understand that there's been several that have not several. There have been
I think
signs that have disappeared.
At
in
one time,
Polk
we had
County.
12 in Bradley County, and there's only 6 of them left, I think. I'm going to talk about another interesting monument that we only have one left here in Cleveland. They used to be everywhere in the country. Reverend Mays traveled the country putting up concrete crosses, huge concrete crosses. Him and another man done it off the back of a truck.
And we watched one of them be put
Moved
back
by
up.
2 tractors, and it was all the tractors could do to move.
I don't know how those two little men did it.
Reverend Mays would build these and said, "Get right with God," or "God's coming soon." They were white concrete crosses with red lettering. They just saved one in Polk County over on 411. It had been ran over by the road construction. Someone reconcreted it or sort of patched it up, and it's been put back up. But a lot of people remember these concrete crosses on the sides of roads everywhere. There's all through Knoxville, and well, you go anywhere in America. And Reverend Mays started doing this because he had got a religious feeling, and
Well, he had.
he was writing it on pigs, and he didn't think it was as effective.
Okay.
Let's get this caller. Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes. There's a place up in Clinton, Tennessee that it's a museum.
Yes,
These houses.
the Appalachian Museum. Yeah.
Yeah, they have his crosses up in there in his factory where he made them.
They also have a picture of him on his bicycle because he never owned a driver's license.
Yeah.
But yes, the village. Let's see, what is the name of that? Museum of Appalachia in
Yes.
Norris, Tennessee. It is quite a good museum, and go on a pretty day that you can walk around. And they serve quite a good buffet there too.
Yeah, they do. Also, you know, the DeSoto sign. There was one down at McDonald that was knocked down and never put back up.
Right, it disappeared.
It got stolen before it got put up.
Yeah, I had called the guys down at Blythe, at Bendabout, and they went down there the next morning to get it, and it was already gone.
Oh my goodness. That's something that ought to really be. I think that's the thing in our country is the history and part of, you know, what we spent time to spend those signs to put them up and everything, and recognize our history, and then somebody comes along and destroy it. They're criminals to me. They're stealing our history.
That's right. I really have a hard time too with the fact that a lot of like the Confederate monuments are being moved out of parks and things. I think you need to leave that history there. It needs to. The discussion needs to remain open.
Even if you disagree with the person or the event, I think if you forget history, you're bound to relive it.
You can't rewrite it, so you just need to tell it. Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of the history was written wrong, but we'll never get it corrected unless everybody gets together and starts correcting it and putting things up and correcting them where
That's right.
like the honest signs that are telling the truth.
Well, I'll tell you, my heart just sank when I was told that the copper rails were also stolen off of Mr. Roth's grave up in Fort Hill. That really upset me. They couldn't have gotten but just a few bucks for those rails, and they destroyed a 100+ year, tribute that was left to him.
Well, a lot of things that get me is they want to tell the history of the South and not the Confederate War, Civil War was not actually a war against North and South as far as hating each other or the slaves. It was the fact that the states wanted to make their own rules and laws to govern themselves and not have the federal government interfere with it. It had to do with state economy.
Yes.
And what they could make money off of.
Yes.
Well, you have to remember the history's always written by the winners.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you think about it. You never saw a slave ship with a Confederate flag over it. It was all run by the British Northerners.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wrote the book Confederate Voices. I said that, the victors had got to tell their side of the story, and we needed to hear what the common person went through during the Civil War in this area, and it made an impact on a lot of people.
Have you ever heard Steve Gibson from up at Button Willow?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
he's fabulous.
Yeah, he explains it to where you can understand. The reason they fought that war was because they were down here. And the Indians related to it so well is because they were sitting eating their meals, and the forces would come. Federal forces came in and took their food and stuff away from them, set white people down at their plate and left off and took it.
Yep.
So when the Union Army came down here, our farmers were working their rear ends off to feed their families, and these armies would come in and take it all away from them and leave them high and dry for their families to starve during the winter.
I often say that people decided which side they wanted to be on by who was invading their house.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing on the rebel flag which is hated today, basically until about 1940, the rebel flag was not the enemy. that it is today when, unfortunately, Strom Thurmond and the Dixiecrats selected that as their theme for their political party, the Dixiecrats. And that's when it really became used as hatred against blacks at that time.
Amen to that.
So the rebel flag was always a Confederate symbol, but not until the 40s did it become really a pure racial thing, and also the Dixie, which was their song, because Dixie was played by Abraham Lincoln at his inaugural ball.
What a lot of people don't realize is that the Union flag and the Southern flag was a lot alike in the beginning of the war.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And the infantry adopted the Tennessee battle flag because it was easily recognized as a Southern symbol.
Right. Like I said, it was just a battle flag. It was not the Confederate United States of the Confederacy.
Never was intended to be.
Yeah.
It was just something that they used to distinguish themselves. A lot of times, Southern troops went into battle with whatever uniform they had wore before, or whatever clothes they had on.
That's true. That's true.
And they would go in and they would go fight in a battle. Stonewall Jackson was an example. He was shot by his own troops because they didn't recognize who he was.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people don't realize all this history because they don't take time to study it.
Nope, they just want to think what they
Well,
want to think. That's what we're trying to do here.
Maybe we can educate people. Hey, we got to take our morning break. Thanks for calling.
Call back. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We need to remember this week Nancy Thomas Lane that left us in the community. Also Charlie Mincy that we lost.
Mm-hmm.
Ward Crutchfield, servant of the state for a great number of years. And the legendary Merle Haggard.
Right.
We'll be back with you in just a few moments.
All right.
Whoop FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible thanks to the generosity of individuals and the following sponsors.
Check into cash. Need a little extra cash right away? Who doesn't? Turn your car into cash at Check into Cash.
Get up to $4,000 with your car title only from Check into Cash. You get more cash with a Check into Cash title line of credit.
Turn your car into cash today at Check into Cash. Visit checkintocash.com for the store near you.
$4,000 title line of credit maximum based on value of vehicle and ability to repay. Subject to credit approval. See store for details.
Whoop FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible thanks to the generosity of individuals and the following sponsors.
After 135 years, Hardwick Clothes, America's oldest since 1880, has delivered on our commitment to produce the finest navy blazer in America. This limited edition blazer was announced as the style winner in Garden & Guns Made in the South Awards. Crafted in Cleveland, Tennessee, we use premium Italian wool from Vitale Barberis, custom Bimberg lining, and signature gold buttons. It's available through the finest men's stores or at hardwick.com.
Thursday, April 21st, at the Cleveland Country Club. The Cleveland Boys and Girls Clubs of the Accoya region is once again going to the sports world for a guest at this year's Empowering Women fundraiser. Lucille O'Neal, mother of former LSU and NBA basketball star Shaquille O'Neal, will be the guest speaker for the 2016 event. Again, it will take place on Thursday, April 21st at the Cleveland Country Club. A meet and greet social event will begin at 5:45 p.m. and a silent auction and social hour will start at 6. This will be followed by dinner and the program. For more information about corporate tables, sponsorships, or tickets, you can call Jennifer Whaley at 423-400-1526. That's 423-400-1526.
Gone home. here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as their work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. Where the old town goes. They moved it all north of here in a shopping mall. Where the old town goes. Did my hometown get old or just me? Did all my friends get old or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told or just me?
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, where you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. If you want to call us, what number is it, Morgan?
Well, you guys can call us at 614-5553, or if you're out of the area, it's 423-614-5553.
Them numbers are almost the same, aren't they? The out-of-town number and the Cleveland number
Just
is
put
about...
423 in front of the
Oh,
regular
it's
number,
about the
you're
same.
good.
Well, we're glad y'all explained
Hey, we're
that to
talking
us.
about historical markers and the reason for them and the need for them and the importance of them, and some that are here and some that are gone, some that we'd like to have. We got Brian Reed here, professor at Cleveland State Community College. You're a history professor, not a math professor, we understand.
We were
That's-
discussing math
we
during
discovered
the
that.
break.
Yeah, we just randomly talked about math for the entirety of the program.
Morgan Denny, our intern from Bradley Central High School. Always
Hello,
glad to have
everybody.
him here, and then Deb and I. And like I say, if you'd like to call us once again at 614-5553.
That's a good day to call.
It is a good day to
I
call.
want to ask something. Brian,
Oh, no.
the home tour's coming up. Explain that to us. How long do you think it's been going on?
And I believe this is our 10th year that Lee has been putting the homes tour on. It started with the idea of John Coates, professor at Lee, where he had previously taught and been a part of their historical society. He came and shared with us the idea that they had done a tour of homes from where he resided, and every year now we have had students from Lee as part of their, it's called their capstone course. It's their last course before they graduate. In the spring, they do a historic survey of typically 4 residences. These are homes that are being lived in. These are usually homes that
And thank you to the people that open their homes to history.
and it is a fundraising event. They will they charge a very minimal fee of $5, and as you walk through the home, each of the students will share with you the architecture of the home, the families who have lived there, the context when the home was built.
That's the part I enjoy is the students' presentation. Let's get this call.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Ron, it's Bob Cash.
Hey, Bob Cash, how are you?
Speaking of old things, here's Bob.
Look here, Ron, Debbie, I wanted to ask you something. I read the Cleveland newspaper yesterday, and there was a thing in there about they're going to have a patriotic songwriters get together.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that a fellow by the name of Stamps is heading it up that works for Whoop Radio. Do you know anything about that?
I know the same thing you just said.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, how can I get in touch with that Stamps?
Call the show on. He's on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday mornings.
Yep. Sorry, we don't have his number.
Oh, no problem there. No problem. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Listen, talking about monuments. Now, somebody said red was a monument. You know anything about that?
Well, she's made out of granite.
Whoa, what a woman. What a woman. Well, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to get off the phone and enjoy your program here a little bit, and I'll be talking to you.
Thanks, darling.
Just call the Stamps show there in the mornings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's not on Wednesday morning.
As far as we know. We just here on Saturdays. We don't know a whole lot. All righty. Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
So the home tour is going to be this year on April 23rd.
23rd. It starts at 9 and it will run till 2.
Well, I'll tell you what you do. You find you a parking space in downtown Cleveland on April the 23rd. You go see the 4 homes, hang around a little while, and the car show will be there in downtown. We have one of the best, I think, car shows around. It's free. You just walk around and look at the cars. Just don't let your kids climb all over them. But be sure to catch that home tour. It's always interesting. And the cemetery tour that we do in October has absolutely flourished over the last few years. How many people do you think went through there last year?
It was
Hundreds.
more than could be managed. But,
Yeah, it's almost getting to that point that we're going to have to make people buy tickets in advance or something.
but we ran out of booklets. We had booklets up through until the last hour and a half. We had none. And
Wow.
We typically have never ran out before.
And printed 400 or more. Yeah. That's interesting, but it's getting to be well known too, and there's people driving quite a distance to see it, and
And it's always scheduled the last Sunday of October.
unless it's Halloween, and then we've kind of changed it in the past. If
Yeah,
it happens to land on Halloween.
Yeah.
But
Cleveland Speedway tonight, Dave.
Cleveland Speedway, 7 p.m. They'll start their hot laps. They're going to have some big races, 2 or 3 20-lap or bigger races. And Road Warriors, which is the one I always like to watch, is just the old grandma's car off the road that somebody's broke all the windows out and somebody's driving it. And it's usually a lot
And
of
at
fun.
2:30 tomorrow, the Bradley County Historical and Genealogical Society will have a meeting. Tell us more about it, Brian, our president of the
Yes,
society.
it's going to start at 2 and I'm sorry, 2:30. I'm getting the other event mixed up. Yeah, we start at 2:30, and we'll be meeting at the history branch of the Cleveland Public Library. We typically will have just some early announcements in the beginning of the program, but we have Jeff Morlock who's coming, our former county commissioner.
Yes.
He'll be presenting on Cleveland during the 1960s and focusing on some of the research that he's worked on.
He's made a map of the downtown area, and it was easy to make the map part, but what's important part, he put what business was in each of those locations in the 1960s, and some of those buildings have changed drastically. He grew up right down towards the tracks down on Central Avenue.
Oh.
And down near what would have been, I guess, Toby's or Tip Tops back in that way. And, of course,
I'm excited about it because we've talked to him quite a bit about it, and he's done some extensive research.
He lived right near Dooley's Ice Cream. I know that he took in that. And of course, there was Abel's downtown. There was the, what was the old movie theater? I can't think of it. Bohemia. And there was Dooley's drugstore. And then there was Moore's Pharmacy. And there was Central Drugstore. And all those had those little snack bars. That's the things I remember the most. And of course, there was the world famous Spot and the chili, and the pot's still up there. They hadn't washed it yet since the 1930s. Just great memories down through there of the store named
I think
Grabbers.
this is going to be really informal. If you worked at some place down there and you want to talk about it, well, Jeff will just let you jump in and talk about it.
C.J. Wilson.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next week's show, back by popular demand, we've got the boys from the country, Kenneth and Gene. Kenneth Roark and Gene Flowers will be in here next week talking about early planting and harvesting the last of your winter crops. And those boys know how to dry things, can things, and they would just love to talk about
Now,
that with you.
They're going to tell you how to grow taters.
Taters.
And maters. Not tomatoes or potatoes. They're going to grow maters and taters. So I think that's they're really great. Kenneth Roark and Gene are and Kenneth Flowers, two of the best gardeners in town. They really are impressive, and they're constantly posting on Facebook what they have grown and what they're eating for supper during the summertime here, and it really makes me hungry. So I just want to let you know that that'll be next week. So get your gardening questions all together. Today we're talking about monuments and history. If you have an area that you think would be historical, not hysterical, historical, give us a call here and we'll talk about it and tell you what some of the requirements are to get a sign. Basically, a lot of information. That's the first thing. A lot of information about
that you can prove,
and about $2,000.
Yeah,
there's the two things, and then be willing to wait for a year.
I have a question, Brian. Why is there a sign being put up near the Cleveland Public Library? Oh, every time I say your name, it makes the phone ring.
Good.
Let's get this phone called.
Hello, you are live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, one of the historical places I think needs to be a sign put up is at the old Cumberland Presbyterian Church called the Shed over in Polk County.
I agree. And there's one of those buildings that last time I was over there was still standing across the street.
Yeah, the graveyards across there has got people back into it in the 1700s. It's really historical, if anything is.
I agree. And I think Polk County's had a problem in the last couple of years that some things in that area that had been marked, the signs have disappeared. So
that's true everywhere.
It's getting to be a real problem with the people that think that they can melt those signs down. I cannot understand why the recycling people will take them unless they just come in on a big dump truck full of stuff.
Because they know they can't get caught, or if they are caught, it's not that big of a deal, apparently. What you need to do is go over to the Polk County Historical Society. They have a very active society over there, and talk with them, and maybe you can get some interest there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great place. I agree with you.
I agree.
Thank you.
Places in the county, if we really got signs up around it, you'd take a year to just walk around and look at them.
That's right.
Well, that's true, but something needs to be done to save them. There's some cities. Real quick before you get off, like Franklin, Tennessee, they have their own city marker. That they do a big metal marker, and it probably costs less. But
it costs less, but it's just not listed on the.
It's not listed, but if you're driving around the city of Franklin, you see a city marker.
There are almost too many to read.
There's a city marker, then there's a state marker, and a city marker. I mean, you can go around 2 blocks within their courthouse, and there's 10 or 15 signs just in downtown Franklin, Tennessee.
There's another one that needs to be put up, and that's over at Henniger's Chapel in Bradley County.
Oh yes.
For Parks and Susanna Parks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I understand that there's a African-American cemetery in that same community, not too far away, and I believe it's really grown up and stuff now. That's probably a real old cemetery.
Yeah.
Henniger's Chapel, I love. We went there one day, and our son was with us. He was probably a young teenager then, and he was kind of concerned when he saw this big bone laying on the ground, and we finally decided it probably was the front leg off of a deer or something, but it was kind of creepy to find it laying in the cemetery. But whoever keeps Henniger's up keeps it up really well.
Yes, Samuel Parks, when the Indians were removed from Tennessee, he took 7 wagons at his own expense to move his wife's people.
He did.
He died. He died while he was en route, and his bones stayed in Oklahoma for 3 years, and they finally shipped him back and buried him to the same headstone as his wife, Susanna.
Yeah, I'd heard something like that, and he really did. He's highly noted in the Chronicles of Oklahoma for having saved, on the trip, saved a lot of lives.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to say it. I love our callers.
Well,
Now,
exactly.
so why is
what he said real quick is It proves that there's a lot of history out there that we are not taking care of. And, you know, the societies who write books or do picture books, all these are just as effective as the signs sometimes. The signs are just a big visual as you drive down the highway. And I know that we read them, stop and read a lot of them everywhere we go.
He'll say, I'll say, historical marker, and he'll say, do I need to stop? Let's get this call, Morgan.
All right. Caller, you're live on Old Cleveland.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
This is Robert. We've been restoring them doors up at the library.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good. And we've been tearing the hinges off, and it says January the 20th, 1856.
Oh, yeah.
The hinges in the historical branch?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We've been restoring them and staining them and stuff.
Did you take a picture of that stamp?
I think they did, last Saturday.
Well,
yeah,
good.
that's about right. That's about right. I think that I was thinking it was a little bit after the Civil War. But
That house was well built, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sturdy house, you know. Since
it looks so much better.
you guys have
it's
done an amazing
refurbished.
job.
The door's about 2 inches thick.
Yeah.
You've done an amazing job up there. It's really great.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you later.
Thanks
All right,
for calling.
thanks.
Bye-bye. All right,
Seen
back
them up
to
there working on that a couple of weeks ago, and it just
They've been working on it quite a while now,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that they just slapped a piece, some paint on it. They've actually taken the old paint off and restained things, and they
Filled
put in
cracks.
For those of you who had some mobility problems and had a problem getting in recently because it was really hard, they put in a new ramp that looks like it's about the right steepness and stuff that it won't be so hard for people to get in. Brian, why is the sign being put up close to the library?
Well, it's being placed there to recognize the importance of the Masonic Family Institute to the Civil War. Although the sign does read and sort of tells.
That's that white building close to the monument building.
The sign recognizes that the building was converted into an apartment house in 1915, so it's been an apartment house for 100 years.
Wow.
But it recognizes, the life of Myra Inman, and most really don't realize that Cleveland played a role in the Battle of Missionary Ridge. That it wasn't just fought in Chattanooga, but there was an action that took place, a raid on Cleveland that took place as a part of that battle. So it recognizes that, and there were troops that were stationed there on the property outside of the Masonic Family Institute. And then
for a great distance, wasn't? I mean, there was a large amount of troops.
Right. It was a regiment. It was a cavalry regiment. And people don't realize too that was the north end of town.
The northernmost.
I have found references in the late 19th century that referred to that building. It was a landmark of Cleveland. So again, that's not something.
We're thinking 1850 something that building was built.
Yes.
It's the big white building.
Yes.
It's a brick building that's been
Directly
painted
next
white.
door to the monument building.
It is getting in a little bit of disrepair. Has Lee University purchased that building?
No, they purchased a property next to it. The monument building they purchased,
yeah.
and they built, and that's the reason why the sign was placed there, because according to the regulations requirements of having this type of sign, is you have to have ADA compliance to allow for parking. There has to be at least area for at least 2 cars to park, and you have to have a handicap accessible area. So that's the whole reason why.
That's one of the flat Civil War markers that usually has pictures on it, and then it has the writing on it, like you'll see at the Museum Center. And then, why is one being placed at Blue Springs?
Well, at Blue Springs, that was where in the winter and sort of early spring of 1864, that's where the Union Army was stationed.
Was that the Indiana 9th?
That was part of them. Again,
Okay.
there were some Ohio troops, there was Indiana troops, there were Wisconsin troops. I mean, there were many troops that were stationed there, and they were all there in preparations for the Atlanta campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So again, most people don't realize that throughout that entire first half of 1864, the Union Army was just preparing, mobilizing, and
And
resupplying.
kind of waiting out the winter.
Yeah, waiting for spring to arrive so they could
And
start
folks,
invading Georgia.
That
You
would
know,
have
so that's-
been a good landmark for that, although they were all the way down that valley.
Right.
The old Blue Spring School that blew down
Mm-hmm.
would have been a perfect landmark. So the sign is there,
That sign's there, yeah.
close to the old school site where you could park, where they play ball, and there's a church now that uses the gymnasium. Now, why is the other one at Fort Hill Cemetery?
Well, it wasn't, of course, the cemetery that was important in the Civil War. Of course, there were those that, of course, died
were
during.
people buried
there were people
there.
buried during the war as well, and we have a map that shows where the cemetery was located. But in the interior of the new cemetery, which it was new for them, not new for us. But if you move into the southern end of the cemetery, there was a fort that was located there. It wasn't a fort with walls. It was it was an encampment. It was what you would call a redoubt, where guns were placed there to guard the railroad.
Now that was on when you go into the old part of the cemetery and you drive up to the top of the hill. It's somewhere in that location,
Right.
close to the woolen
Yeah,
tomb
yeah,
or
a little
the
bit,
harl.
a little bit beyond that. Yeah.
Okay, it's somewhere right in there, and the cemetery south of that did not exist
Right.
at that time.
Right.
And then down where Hillcrest is, there was a fort down there.
There was a fort
also.
down there, and again
Now
the
think
sign,
about it. That's where you could see the major roads, and you could see the railroad.
Right.
And from the top of that hillside, you could see a lot of what was going on because they basically come through and all the trees were gone.
The trees were gone. Yeah, there was no line of trees. Yes. And the marker shows a map that indicates where those two forts were located, and they were very significant in the fact that they protected the railroad, they protected the depot. There was a raid that happened in that same year of 1864 on Cleveland, and those two forts played a significant role in beating off the enemy.
You know, that raided there, was that when everyone ran out to
Yeah.
the Reeder House
It
or
was
the
Reeder House.
what's Jackson Farm
Yeah,
now?
they evacuated. The commander of the town of Cleveland, the Union commander, had ordered an evacuation of the town, including his wife. It was always interesting to me that even his wife was living there with him while Cleveland was occupied. And both Myra Inman and this wife of the commander, they were hiding in the same place, a Confederate sympathizer and a Union commander's wife hiding in the same place.
I think when you get desperate, you'll just
You'll go anywhere.
if you thought you were going to be safe, you would anyway. And there were massive amounts of people there at the Jackson Farm. And the fella, Rucker, I want to say his name was Rucker, that lived in that area. I think he may have been a professor in one of the schools out next to Candy's Creek Mission, but it was later, like after the Civil War. But they said he hopped about. The children, he terrified the children because he just had one leg and he would hop about. And there's just some funny stories in Cobb's diary about him. That just made me think of that. Someone just called me, sent me a message that Wes Evans of Evans Garage Doors, that's been an establishment here in Bradley County for a long time, has passed, and we just wanted to recognize him.
Real quick, for those people who are interested in Cherokee history, and if you really are trying to become more interested or more knowledgeable about it, the National Trail of Tears meeting will actually be in Dalton, Georgia in October this year. Every year it moves around. Last year it was at Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Deborah and I got to go out and attend that. It goes to Oklahoma.
It's always in a state that the trail went through, or you know.
So Dalton, Georgia will be a great thing. You could go down and spend the day there, and you don't have any hotel costs. There's evening events, there's daytime events, there's speakers,
field trips,
and dinner. There is a fee to join the National Trail of Tears and to go to the conference.
It's about $125. $25 of that gets you into one state, and then it gets you into you become a member of one state and the national organization, and then that allows you to go to the conference. The conference, for that $100, they feed you a lot.
Yes.
and take you on the field trips, the whole deal. And Ron and I always enjoy it a lot. I know one field trip's going to be to New Echota in Georgia, but they felt like a lot of people may have already been there. So they're planning one up around Blue Ridge or LJ. That's to the McNair Farm. And I know, don't call me and tell me the McNair Farm's in Polk County. There's a McNair Farm in LJ, too, in Gilmer County.
And if you want to join, if you want to become a member of the Tennessee and the Georgia state associations, that $25 gets you for one state, and the national, $10 more gets you another state.
Right,
So
right. And that just gets you their newsletter and stuff. Now, our state chapter's kind of small, but now some of the chapters, like in Alabama and Georgia, are huge. Let's get this call.
Caller, you are live on Old Town Cleveland.
Whoop. Let's try again.
Call us again, caller. We'll get you right back here.
I've learned that Red Clay will be doing some special events as part of that, that conference. Aaron Medley, who's, our chief officer.
The lady that carries the gun at Red Clay, we call her.
Yeah.
But she's
And
going
usually,
to
they recently had to stop somebody with her gun there.
Yeah, I think
Now, she didn't shoot them. I mean,
but
she had to arrest somebody.
She had to arrest somebody. I think got a little bit more exciting than she likes it, and I'm a little scared about it. But I'm going to be a presenter there at the National Trail of Tears, and I'll be talking about the importance of Flint Springs and the Red Hill Valley, Judge Martin's farm, all of those things down in that area, because people are going to be in this area from like Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and all over the United States. And we even have people come from other nations sometimes to visit. And they need to know those things are just a few miles away.
And something that, I've mentioned to Brian and the Bradley County Historical and Genealogical. We'll talk about it in a minute if I remember. Go ahead.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Ron. This is Neil.
Hey, Neil.
Talking about the historical monuments and preserving history and so forth. Something that I really admire and respect is what Mr. Conley has done down on the south end on Ocoee with all those old mill houses.
Absolutely.
And that that's not the hoity-toity end of town. It's not uptown, but he saw fit to do all that. And I just can't help but looking at all those houses that he's renovated every time that I drive down through there. And of course, he's bought the old store, and they're well underway with it. That's on South Ocoee there.
He's such a fine man that during the recession a few years ago, and his business got a little bit low, instead of laying all those folks off, he just put them to work.
Yeah.
And they started buying and remodeling those little houses, and he's got them rented out, and it's absolutely an adorable neighborhood now.
They're like new little houses. They had his company install a meter on one of the buildings down on the highway a couple 3 years ago, and I was talking to his son about that, and he was explaining the process and so forth, and he said those houses look as good inside as they do outside. He said they are thoroughly done. But I just respect that so much.
I do too.
That he's seen fit to preserve those. He deserves some kind of civic recognition for that.
And he didn't do it for that reason. I have all but just begged him to come be on this show because he is so knowledgeable of the area that he grew up in down in Flint Springs and down in the Red Hill Valley. But he says he's bashful.
But I was sorry to see and hear about Charlie Mincy passing.
Oh, I know. I'm sure you saw him race a few hundred times.
Raced literally from a kid when he was running the old super modified. He raced into the 1980s.
He sure did.
And I don't want to sidetrack your show.
No, go ahead.
But that man was good enough. He never owned a race car. Owners and drivers sought him out.
I know when we were interviewing people, that was always one of my questions is, did you do your own work on your car? Did you build your own engines? And he looked at me and he said, I was just a driver. He said, somebody always provided a car for me.
Right.
And he said, they liked me so much, they'd put my name on it.
Yeah, at one point in time, he quit racing, I think, maybe for a couple, 3 years. And a guy that he had driven for previously built the car, had it lettered, had his name on it, everything, called and said, Charlie, I've got a car for you to race, and I quit. No, you got to drive this car. It's already built. Anyway, he started racing again, started winning again.
We really love Charlie, and I really hate that we've lost him. He took a lot of history with him, but for a long time he's told his story about being a moonshine runner.
Yeah.
It was no secret.
No. Enjoying your show.
Thank you, Neil. Bye-bye. I wanted just to remind people, too, to go up to the Ducktown Basin Museum. If you want to know about that area, they have a fabulous little museum. It's just like $5 to go through it or something, and that just helps them keep the lights on. But it's up in Ducktown. If you turn right, you go to Copper Hill. You turn left, you go to Ducktown, and go over there and see them. It's a good little museum, isn't it, Ron?
Right. Talking about real quick here that the Genealogical Society is interested in trying to raise some money to maybe do some things to save history, like adding signs to our community. And talked to Deb about possibly doing a Cherokee history. The real facts about that, about a $20 program. It'd be an all-day event, probably lunch provided. I'll find a sponsor for that. So if you start thinking about that, if you'd be interested in attending that, people like Joe Guy from McMinn County, Deb is an instructor, maybe Charlie Rodehammer from Sequoia Museum. There's some real historians about the Cherokee Nation here. We may just do that for you.
Let's get this call.
Go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Caller, you're live on the Old Town Cleveland.
Hello.
Hello, this is Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hi there.
We were separated at birth. We are the Graveyard Divas. What's going on?
It's good to talk with you, and I'm listening in long distance from White Bluff, but I thought I would call and announce the Charleston Calhoun Hiwassee Historical Society meeting, which will be on Sunday, the 17th at 3 at the Heritage Center in Charleston.
Okay, what's the topic going to be?
I will be doing the presentation on as a Methodist circuit riding preacher diary that I found in the state library. It was actually transcribed by the WPA as a Bradley County document, and his name was Augustine Shannon.
Yes.
And he was assigned to the Decatur Circuit in 1848 and 49. But Decatur, of course, is in Meigs County, but that included Calhoun, Spring Creek, circled up through Meigs County, up through McMinn County, and back down. And he also mentioned campground meetings at Eldridge Campground, which was in Bradley County, the camp meetings in Charleston. There's a lot of genealogical information in there. He mentions weddings. There's information that, by looking at family trees on Ancestry, those people do not know the information that's in that diary.
Oh.
It's been really interesting. He was friends with Jack Walker's widow, Emily Meg Walker, and discusses her. She lived with her sister, Grace Calloway, in Calhoun after Jack Walker was murdered.
Did not know that.
That's right. And so it was just chock full of information.
I have only seen little bits and pieces of that diary. I believe, Brian, he was related to Robert Easterly.
Oh.
I think Mr. Easterly's middle name was Shannon, and he's out of that family somehow. Robert died at 95, probably 3 or 4 years ago.
He is buried, actually, he's buried in McDonald after he took a station church. He was in North Carolina after he was in Tennessee, and then he moved back to Bradley County. He lived it with his niece in McDonald. He never had any children, and his wife died. He was appointed as the postmaster in McDonald at one point. And so I just thought that I wanted you to understand that it's not just about Decatur and Calhoun. It really encompasses a large perimeter of churches and other events. He talks about temperance meetings. He talks about the light celebrations and all kinds of things like that. And so there's a lot of entries in it. And so what I've done with it is that I'll present based on a focus on McMinn and Bradley counties at the meeting on Sunday, this Sunday the 17th, or the next Sunday. And then on the 24th, I'm also going to do a presentation at the Meigs County Historical Society, and it will focus on the Meigs County information because there are like 450 entries in the diary. There's no way to cover all of that.
Do we have a picture of him?
I don't. I have tried to find one. He's very, you will be familiar with this, the Christ Chapel Cemetery.
Yes.
Do you know where that is?
Yes.
Okay, and he's supposed to be buried there. He's on Thunder Grave. So, hey.
Okay, folks, let me tell you, exit 20. Okay, off of I-75.
Right.
Well, you see the big theater down there on the left, and then on the right-hand side of Pleasant Grove Road is Price Cemetery.
Okay.
And that's where he's buried. I think that there's probably a lot of unmarked graves in there. But he lived in that community. He sure did. What was his niece's name that he was lived with? Do you know?
The niece, yes. One second. I was down. I was working.
Okay, so the meeting is next Sunday, the 17th, at the Hiwassee Heritage Center.
Right.
In Charleston. And folks, if you haven't seen the inside of the center, this would be a really good time for you to come and see that. What time's the meeting?
It'll be at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. And usually there's a nice little crowd there. Everybody's friendly. It's free. Just come visit with us.
And he lived with his niece. Her name was, it says Mrs. William T. Kelly.
Okay.
At McDonald's. And then he died.
Okay, I believe that might be on the Kelly farm. That is a Century farm.
Okay.
The Kelly family may still live on it, Laura.
Okay.
Between Laura and I, we
Which
know
was right-
all of the unknown facts in the world.
Which is right next door to the Easterly farm.
Yeah, yes. I'm pretty sure that's a relative of Mr. Easterly's.
And it may very well be.
Okay.
He had no children, and I said so that was why he lived with his niece. But anyway, I just wanted to make an announcement. I hope to see you there.
All righty. Thanks, Laura.
All
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Laura and I are each going to have to live another 80 years to get all the projects finished that we have started. Let's get this call. Ooh.
I think it was on this.
Try to get caller real quick. Our Copper Hill documentary, which we'll be announcing probably in less than a month. We'll be doing the premiere of it. It will most likely be in Copper Hill, the premiere. Then we will show it here in Bradley County some, but we will announce that here. It's going to be exactly 1 hour. About 30 seconds less than 1 hour. We got it under 1 hour. You know, give it take a minute there. All we're doing now is putting the credits in, and pretty well done. We've had an expert look through it, make sure that all the pictures are what we said they were, and we only missed one, so we're changing that today, and that should be done. So we're looking forward to that. Original music written by John Cook for it. We do use some song I played this morning before we got here. Farewell to Ducktown by Mr. Sism. And they use his short neck fiddle to play the song, Greg Brooks and his band. And we're going to use that song there in the middle and show a little of that. So look forward to showing it to everybody, and it will be available soon. And like I say, in 30 days, you'll get to see it.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's going to be maybe the 20th of May. I'm working on trying to get the biggest location available in Copper Hill, and that's like 2 locations.
and by then we'll probably need air conditioning too. Air conditioning, electricity, and all that other stuff.
There's something interesting going on up in the Smoky Mountains. Ron and I happened to be in Cades Cove last year when the fireflies were there, and massive amounts of fireflies, and it was pretty fascinating.
More cars than they were fireflies.
Yes. So this year, apparently Elkmont is the place to see these. They shuttle people out, so there's not all the car lights, and you go out and you sit for a few hours, and they shuttle you back to your car at Sugarlands. But last year they had more people wanting to participate than they could handle. So this year they're doing a lottery that you can apply free of charge to get access for 1 car to be parked and up to 6 people to be transported. And they're going to open that window real soon, like on the 29th day of April, and you can apply at www.recreation.gov. But if you haven't seen that, it's really something to see.
Now, we were in Caves Cove, and there was a lot there, but
nothing like what they say is that
they say it's probably the world's largest display of fireflies at one time.
Thursday night at the SAR.
How they get them all sequenced to do it at the same time, I don't know.
It's kind of a dance that they're doing, and they're flashing at the same time. It's pretty amazing. SAR meeting this Thursday night. The speaker will be Ken Rush from the Ducktown Basin Museum. And don't forget that we're doing the marker dedication Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock at the Cleveland Public Library. Got a Historical Society meeting tomorrow at 2:30 at the old library. Be sure to join us.
Cleveland Speedway tonight, 7 o'clock, for all you dirt track fans.
The home show and the car show will be on the 23rd. It's that time of year where everything's opening up. And on the 16th, next Saturday, they'll be having the free admission to the Meigs County Historical Society, their little museum up there. And they used to be in a little tiny museum that was like the size of a closet. I understand they've moved out into a bigger building now. So
it was the smallest museum in the United States.
You could stand and put your arm out each window. It was so small.
She's not kidding. It was that small.
Okawasi Festival in Delano will be next Saturday. This is all about the outdoors. You go up there, it's very educational. They teach you about beekeeping and mushroom farming, and they have a birds of prey show and a living history demonstration at Fort Marr. That goes on from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you go up to where you turn left to go over to the farmer's market, you turn right to go to the little G Creek, and it's it's in the campgrounds and at the station there. They've moved Fort Marr there and restored it to keep it safe.
I've got a historical question, since we're talking about Meigs County Museum.
Ron scares me when he starts asking historical questions.
I want to know, and someone can call in. We won't wait for the answer. You win nothing. First off, you win absolutely nothing. You'll win my praise and adoration. Adoration, whatever it is there. I want someone to tell me what the widest point of Meigs County is. They can't know that quick. Go ahead.
Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Well, good morning.
Oh, it's just Marilyn. What's going on, sister?
It's just Marilyn. Well, Marilyn's just full of information this morning. First of all, I want to back up what Ron has said all along. If you have old pictures, get somebody to put names on them. I've looked at hundreds of pictures this week of beautiful people that I have no idea.
We have no idea who they are. Also, something too is always make your wishes known. Because it's awful hard for people to figure out what it is you would like to have had done at your funeral or what you'd like to have done with your stuff. So always make your wishes known.
Now, sort your stuff out, everyone. They're having a benefit singing and a chili supper thing out at the Kinzer Church of God Pavilion today for Ruby Denton. He has several health problems and things. And
did she work with our mother?
She worked with Mother. She was one of Mother's real good friends, and I went by and gave him a donation, but I thought I'd put him in a plug, too. And I guess my best historical marker story, right beyond the Georgia-Tennessee line, there was a marker for red clay. Now, this was way back before there was ever a park or anything. And
this is down next to the park, not out on Highway 60.
Well, the marker was actually out on Highway 60.
Oh, okay.
Right over in the edge of Georgia.
Yeah.
And we caught the school bus. I lived with Grandma Clayton, and we caught the school bus where the tree used to be in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about.
We were there one morning, and this big, shiny car drives up, and the window rolls down, and the man said, "Could you please direct us to historical red clay?" And, of course, we always call that spot right there red clay. And this bunch of kids crack up, you're here.
Yeah, point to the sign. I thought you were going to tell them about Sleeping Rabbit's grave.
Yeah, well, Sleeping Rabbit's grave, there's a marker down, there's almost a monument of a thing for him in the corner of the road down there.
But the funny note is that he's buried in Tennessee and the marker's in Georgia.
Yeah, the marker's in Georgia.
They missed it by a little bit. And I have probably dozens of newspaper articles from the early 1900s where people were arguing about was the council grounds in Georgia or was the council grounds in Tennessee. And the Daughters of the American Revolution down there just put up this big monument and had all this big fuss over it. And I think members of our own family said, well, he's buried right up there, which is over on the Tennessee side.
Well, and that goes back, too, to they claim that the state line is not where it's supposed to be, that it's actually...
they're still doing that, trying to get to the water in Tennessee.
Yeah, Georgia's still trying to get part of it. But that's got something to do with that, too. And Arkansas Pondstocker's truck will be at the co-op April the 30th at 11 a.m. So anybody that needs a fish, why?
Go get a fish. Okay.
Yeah, go get a fish or 3 or 100. We got them covered.
It's that time. Well, thank you, Marilyn.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Ron still wants to know what the widest spot is.
Widest spot in Meigs County is. If you know that, just give us a call here. And like I say, you will not win a thing. But am I the only one that knows the answer to that? Deb knows it because she's heard me tell it before.
Next week's show will be Kenneth and Jean, and they'll be talking about gardening and canning and what not to plant and what to do when your tomatoes get rotten.
Ooh, this may be
Throw them away, what I do. Until you really get rotten. How to keep them from getting rotten.
Let's get this caller. Caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, it's Bird Dog.
Hey, Bird Dog.
Hey, Bird Dog. What's up, buddy?
10 miles.
Hey, it
You're
is.
absolutely right. 10 Mile, Tennessee is the widest point of Meigs County. And it is the 4th smallest county in the nation by land size.
Yep.
So
look at it on the map sometime.
I knew Bird Dog had the brains to figure out that 10 Mile was the widest spot in Meigs County.
I kept waiting on somebody else to call, and nobody called in.
Nobody was helping.
No one has the brain that you have, Bird Dog. Now, I meant that as a really nice thing.
All right, we'll see you later.
All right, bye-bye. See, did you learn something today, Brian? Yeah. Yeah, that's, it just accolades at such a young age. That's what I got there. Yeah. So.
Gosh, this 2 hours is already
Well,
gone.
Brian, you got any
guys.
final thing or any final wishes for history? Well, we got people still calling in now.
Okay,
Go
let's
ahead.
get this.
All right, caller, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. This is Lisa Poe Jones.
Hey, Lisa Poe.
Lisa.
I have called to thank Debbie for mentioning, write your stuff down and to add something to that. If you tell people what you want done later or what you want in your obituary or what you want in your tombstone, that doesn't mean you are going to die tomorrow.
No, and it does save a lot of heartache and work and thoughts and conversations. So just let somebody know, plan it all out, write it all down.
We are all going to have a historical marker on our heads someday. And, wouldn't you rather plan the nice things it says now and make sure it's correct and somebody on a...
My sister Marilyn and I both witnessed at Bonerges Baptist Church a marker that said, I told them I was sick. And then we went back a short time later, and apparently the family had it replaced with something a little bit more appropriate. But we thought that was so funny. Said, well, she had the last say. I told them I was sick.
That would have been great. But tell somebody, I think I've mentioned on your show before, I had a great-great-aunt that had the wrong name on the marker because no one ever bothered to tell my dad what her name was. They just wanted to make sure that he purchased the marker for her, and he put the name he thought it was, and somebody called one day and said, hey, that's the wrong last name. So, do those things, write those things down, and it's not going to make you ill. It's not going to hurt you, it's not going to harm you, and it's not going to put you in the grave one.
That's right.
Supposed to be there.
You remind your dad to give me a call, okay? I need to get him on our schedule.
He's got some questions that he needs to discuss with you about that first. So I'll stay on him. Yesterday was his and my mom's 55th anniversary.
Oh.
Happy 55th.
Condolences to her, and congratulations to him.
He's not sure how it can be 55 years because my mom's only 38.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's that new modern math.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's dog years. So,
Yeah.
dog years. But y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 2:30 at the History Branch. Come out and join us.
Don't forget, Deb said it. Write the names down on the back of those pictures. Interview your relatives, the seniors in your family and your neighbors, and save this history. And let's see if I can get this right.
Let's pray.
You'll always remember Pearl Harbor, but...
Will we remember Aunt Pearl?
See you
Right.
guys next
Hey, we'll
week.
see you next week, folks.
Bye-bye.
Shopping mall. Ooh, where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old, or just me? Did all my friends get old, or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told, or just me?
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.